The corporate press is officially falling apart. What a lovely sight to behold. We have Tucker Carlson being let go from Fox News, Don Lemon being let go from CNN after 17 years. What we see now is the corporate press and legacy media just absolutely dying in real time. The propaganda network for the state also dying in real time. What a fascinating time to be alive, to observe the transition in the media landscape and to actually be cognizant of the fact that it is happening rather than to be completely unaware, as my generation was for the death of something like the newspaper, which effectively died so swiftly that we didn't even know it happened because we relied so intensely on the internet, because we are children of the internet. So, let's go ahead and jump into this, see what's going on. This should be quite fascinating, so I'll leave all the links in the description as I always will. Give a thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. Alright, let's go ahead and check this out. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News after the Dominion lawsuit disclosures. It says the bombastic conservative was the network's most watched primetime host. Private communications made public in a recent lawsuit revealed his sharp criticism of Fox management. So yeah, Tucker had insane amounts of issues with the way that they were purporting the notion of the election being stolen in 2020. He didn't buy it. He didn't really jive with the idea, and he thought it was completely destroying not only his credibility, but the networks. And in this, it goes on to talk about the fact of how much he disagreed with them, how much he talked about how he passionately hates the former president, with being Donald Trump. I mean, I can't assume he likes Biden, but nonetheless, the fact that your name would be tarred with the stigma of just Donald Trump nonsense all the time, it's all anyone can tie you to. I can absolutely see why that would tie you to having hatred for this individual. But as it says Carlson's comments about Fox management, as revealed in the Dominion case that played a role in his departure from Fox, a person familiar with the company's thinking told the Post. Do the executives understand how much credibility we've lost with our audience? Carlson wrote to a colleague in a message. And it goes on and it just says, it was sentiment echoed by others at Fox in the fall of 2020 as the network officials who disbelieved Trump's election fraud conspiracy theories fretted that countering them strongly would alienate their conservative viewers. And a big thing about this that people need to understand is, like, I know, like, the media will just shit on Tucker Carlson all the time, and he's really been, like, the only solid anti-war voice within the media establishment on, like, primetime television. He was consistently calling out someone like Sidney Powell, who was the person who was saying that she had the Leviathan, or the Kraken is what she was calling it, which was another load of bullshit. But people believed it nonetheless, which they were hoodwinked. They were so swung on the idea that the election was stolen, it was understandable that these people had been captured the same way other people get ideologically captured by ideas. Because nonetheless, people don't have ideas, ideas have people. So we'll go ahead and look at this. Don Lemon also fired CNN star anchor to leave the network. So what's so wild about this is, like, Don Lemon had the controversy with, like, Nikki Fried, and basically saying, oh, well, this is a woman in her 50s, and she's past her prime, and he's sitting next to two women, one like 45 and one almost 50, and he's sitting there making these comments, and they just turn and rotate and look at him, and it's like, what do you mean past your prime? It's absolutely stunning and hilarious to see him, like, choke up and just sit there in the moment and just kind of freeze and go deadpan. Yeah, Don Lemon, I can't really say Don Lemon will be missed from my perspective. I mean, I can't really say Tucker will fully be missed from my perspective. Like, I didn't watch him. I enjoyed his segments on occasion when he was talking about, like, the wars and stuff. But outside of that, I can't really say I ever watch mainstream media because it's just, it feels like you're just being fed propaganda nonsense all the time, which is why I'm so happy to see this arm of the state completely die in the eyes of the people, because people don't believe them. It doesn't matter what it is. You can watch someone like Joe Rogan, which I don't even watch that much Rogan at all, but nonetheless, people can sit there and watch Rogan, and they will know Joe Rogan is not lying to them. He may be wrong. He may be wrong about whatever he's talking about. He may be incredibly interested and invested in the idea of it, and he may be wrong. But nonetheless, he's not lying, because he believes what he's saying. And that is the thing that people understand majorly that the corporate press do, is they lie through their fucking teeth, and it's their job. And they lied us into a war in Iraq that killed 1 million people, just like they lied us into 20 years in Afghanistan that killed 14,000 soldiers, and then we left, and that was an absolute disaster, and we left God knows how much money and armaments and equipment there. It's an absolute nightmare. And Disclosed TV on Twitter, this is how I ended up seeing this. It says, CNN has fired Don Lemon. Just in, Tucker Carlson leaves Fox News. April 24th, Fox News Media, Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. So Tucker worked at this place for an absolute solid amount of time. Can't really say that I can understand it as being someone who's never worked at a building or any institution for that long in my entire life. I wouldn't have had the opportunity, for being honest, due to my age. But we see right here, Tucker is trending on Twitter. It's been trending all day. DC Drano has this rant right here that he has up where it's like Tucker's last opening monologue that he had when his show was on Friday. So I'll go ahead and I'll cue this up and I'll play that, and then I'll jump back into this and I'll make some comments in a second.
Welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, sometimes you wonder just how filthy and dishonest our news media are. You'll be in the shower and you'll think they're bad, but how bad are they? Well, here's one measure of their badness. You can try this at home. Ask yourself, is any news organization you know of so corrupt that it's willing to hurt you on behalf of its biggest advertisers? Anyone who do that is obviously Pablo Escobar level corrupt and should not be trusted. What would that look like? That level of corruption? Well, imagine that the Trump administration had made it mandatory for American citizens to buy MyPillow. That's one of Fox News' biggest advertisers. Imagine the administration declared that if you didn't rush out and buy at least one MyPillow and then at least another booster pillow, you would not be allowed to eat out. You couldn't re-enter your own country. You couldn't have a paying job. MyPillow, they told you with a straight face, was the very linchpin of our country's public health system. Now imagine as they told you that Fox, as a news organization, endorsed it, amplified the government's message. Imagine if Fox News attacked anyone who refused to buy MyPillow as an ally of Russia, as an enemy of science. And then imagine that Fox kept up those libelous attacks even as evidence mounted that MyPillow caused heart attacks, fertility problems, and death. If Fox News did that, what would you think of Fox News? Would you trust us? Of course you wouldn't. You would know that we were liars. Thank heaven Fox News never did anything like that, but the other channels did. The other channels took hundreds of millions of dollars from big pharma companies, and then they shilled for their sketchy products on the air. And as they did that, they maligned anyone who was skeptical of those products. At the very least, this was a moral crime. It was disgusting, but it was universal. It happened across the American news media. They all did it. So at this point, the question isn't who in public life is corrupt, too many to count. The question is, who is telling the truth?
DC Drano says Tucker's opening monologue calls out the mainstream media's role in pushing the COVID vaccines despite the high risks for serious side effects and death. Today, Tucker is no longer with Fox. He says, "This is the power of Big Pharma." And that is correct. This is the power of Big Pharma as a lobbying industry. This is also the power of any kind of massive corporation or organization as a lobbying industry within the United States government because of the nature of how massive the bureaucratic state is. So a huge problem with this that we see, and one, Tucker's analogy was pretty solid the way he used MyPillow to frame this. It could have been made a little bit better, but it was set up very well and it was delivered decently. But again, this could be one of the crucial factors of why he was fired. But what we're seeing now, and I believe it came out from Rupert Murdoch, from the man who owns Fox, that there was news that dropped not too long ago about this, that one of the main things was he was very skeptical and he hated Tucker's perspective on the election and the Dominion voting stuff, which Tucker didn't buy the Dominion stuff, as we've talked about prior, apparently. But the thing that he wasn't happy with was his handling of January 6th, and this is the main thing that ginned him up to want Tucker off of Fox's network as a whole. Which, if that's the case, so be it. I mean, he owns the network. Tucker's going to absolutely dominate in a solo landscape when he's doing his own thing. He's going to make a ton of money. It's not going to stifle his voice. He's going to be free from corporate overreach, so he's going to be able to say whatever he wants unchained to the degree that he wants to say it, which could be fascinating to see someone like Tucker Carlson have their power levels inadvertently raised unintentionally by the state or by, like, unintentional state actors based on the fact that they were trying to silence them, and we'll just see something like the Streisand effect just absolutely blow up as we have with so many other people. So, jumping into Don Lemon, we see good old Donnie Boy. He says, "I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I'm stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought someone in management would have the decency to tell me directly." And the fact that he's stunned by this stuns me personally, because I cannot believe that he is so stunned about such a stunning event. At the no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network. It is clear that there are some larger issues at play. With what I said, I want to thank my colleagues and many teams I have worked with for their incredible run. They are the most talented journalists in the business, and I wish them all the best. While I do wish the people at CNN the best in the sense of like their personal lives and like their families, I fundamentally disagree on every whole level that they are the most talented journalists in the business. They are propagandists at work, and they do their job masterfully. They've conned the boomer generation flawlessly. So, Don Lemon making this own personal statement to Twitter, and then we see Angela McArdle, who's the acting chair of the LP currently. She says, "I'm surprised you were surprised." It's like, yeah, me too, Angela, me too. Sticks X and Hammer with the Learn to Code. If you like news and you like just breaking information and random stories of like intrigue and all different kinds of benefactors, go ahead and check out Sticks X and Hammer. He is on YouTube and Rumble and all different other websites and stuff. He's phenomenal. So we have Don Lemon's statement right here, but what we see is when we jump over to CNN Communications, which they have the yellow check mark of yellow journalism, which good job on Elon Musk for that, just stunningly hilarious. Don Lemon's statement about this morning's event is inaccurate. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. I don't know what's going on, but all I know is this just looks like a house of cards falling and watching everyone flee as it does, and I'm completely okay with it because I'm going to sit here and revel in the chaos. So, and speaking of chaos, we're going to go ahead and jump on over to AOC. So it says, AOC calls on the government to ban Tucker Carlson and other Fox hosts. Jen Psaki nods along. The inside interview with Jen Psaki. So, Jen Psaki is now, well, she went from being the White House press secretary to now being the White House press secretary, but in the media that works for MSNBC. So this is her new show. She's in a one-on-one with AOC, and we'll go ahead and listen to AOC's nonsense.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with. Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed.
Okay, so AOC saying that this is an incitement of violence is a farce to a degree that is almost unknown. So saying it's an incitement of violence when you're saying this to the scale that Tucker Carlson is speaking, this would be guaranteed as stochastic terrorism. And what you're saying is, especially with how, well, silence is violence and then words are also violence, so they really can't make up their mind on this. But the factor is, if you're saying someone is committing stochastic terrorism, they're ginning people up to go commit actions of violence, what you're doing is saying, we need to go send the black suits to go get this person, because what they're doing is fomenting dissidence. And the fact that this would be pushed in the mainstream is quite fascinating. But the thing is, AOC can't come out and just say it, because if she says, well, we should arrest him, Tucker Carlson should be locked up for saying these things, he's inciting violence, he's a terrorist, he's a stochastic terrorist. Every single media outlet everywhere would say, AOC calls Tucker Carlson a terrorist, and so on and so forth, and it would just get blown out, and she knows this. Absolutely. And if she doesn't, then she unintentionally played her words well, and the ditzy bartender did herself good. So, wasn't going to cover this, but again, we're covering the death of the legacy media. So, BuzzFeed news to close and parent company to make substantial layoffs. Chef's kiss. BuzzFeed is absolute and utter garbage. Same thing with so many other of these little, like, nonsense Gamergate style websites that popped up to cover the culture war, but with nothing but an absolutely absurd activist slant. Not anything I can ever stand to read nor stomach, because it's just absolute garbage. Go look up top 10 worst BuzzFeed articles. I promise you will fucking regret it. Alright, so going into Orrin McIntyre, he has this tweet right here. He says, pretty clear Tucker Carlson expected to do a show on Monday. His speech went viral this weekend. Did it make Fox uncomfortable? And I'm not going to play this speech. I will leave it linked in the description below, as well as Orrin's Twitter, as well as his YouTube. Go give him a sub. Link in the description below. He is phenomenal. He's a neo-reactionary. He had a conversation with Dave Smith quite recently, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. I thought he voiced his opinions very well. He's very kind. He's very amicable. And nonetheless, he comes off as incredibly honest, and that's the most valuable asset you have in a person when it comes to the nature of the media landscape and how it exists. And it's also the reason why we see the media landscape completely shifting and dying when it comes to the corporate press, because nonetheless, they are not honest. They are lying through their fucking teeth. So, we're going to go ahead and go on. And honestly, I don't really have much except for this, and this is going to be the most interesting thing for me, just to top it off. Just when Dem debates would have been interesting, DNC says there will be no debates. So RFK Jr. just jumped into the race, and this would have no doubt been a fascinating debate. Because RFK Jr. is no pushover. He's incredibly well-read. He's incredibly well-spoken. And he also is someone who's experienced injury from vaccines, and that's something he's been speaking out against and fighting for, is vaccine efficacy and vaccine honesty in the open eye for the public against Big Pharma for the past, God, I don't even know how many years. And that's something that he's been pushing. It's because he himself was injured and he realized the nature of how this needs to be curtailed and at least monitored. And the big thing about this isn't like some second cousin, third removed, he's a Kennedy, oh my goodness, can you imagine? It's like, no, this is John F. Kennedy's nephew. The CIA killed his uncle. Kidding, accordingly. And the thing is, you've gone after the man's family, and now you've gone after him, and now you're spurring his chance to speak an honest truth to the world stage. And all you're going to do is ignite a fire under his ass, as well as the people that are going to be interested in his message, because all you're going to do is create the Streisand effect, and he's going to bloom far beyond what the corporate press had wanted, because they're trying to stop this, and they're trying to curtail his actions now. And I honestly don't see it, because his message is pure, and his message is true. And I'm no Democrat, I'm no Republican, but nonetheless, like I said, honesty is the factor that matters most. And I think RFK is kind of nuts and ridiculous on the reaction of what we should do with climate change. But again, as I've said prior, these are things for whole other videos, because these are entirely different conversations. But I would love to see an actual debate stage with someone like RFK Jr. and Joe Biden. I would love to see a debate stage with someone like Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Rand Paul, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy being an absolute powerhouse of a candidate to come in soon. I really wonder what's going on. I don't know if he'll win, and I don't think he will, but nonetheless, whoever does win, I really hope he gets put in their cabinet, and I don't see politics as a legitimate means of getting anything done, but nonetheless, this is a man who understands how to get things done. He's post-libertarian in his thought process. He's now more Republican, but he's also more of the, I guess you would say MAGA, but he's the Make America First crowd, rather than just make America great again. He's make America first, because we have to bring the manufacturing and the value back, not only to the industries in American society, but to the culture in American society, which is completely true, because we have the cultural degradation to the degree it is now, and which is why you see the level of violence that you do. That's really all I got for this one. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you like it, a thumbs down if you didn't. All the links will be in the description. Have a wonderful one. Go ahead, go read something, go tell someone you love them. Peace.